Howdy, my name is Hunter Hammond, and this is my Psych 107 ad analysis project. So, the ad analysis concerning emotion and motivation. The study I used was titled Individual Differences in Trait Rumination and the Neural Systems Supporting Cognitive Reappraisal. It was done by Rebecca D. Ray from Stanford, Kevin N. Oshner from Columbia University, and Jeffrey C. Cooper, who's also from Stanford University. You can find it in the Cognitive, Affective, and Behavioral Neuroscience Journal, Volume 5, Section 2 from 2005. I used pages 156 to 168 for this project. So, an introduction to the study. The background of the experiment deals with cognitive reappraisal, which is a personal interpretation of a study and possible reactions to it, and the change within an emotional response based on changing interpretations of a situation's meaning. So their initial hypothesis is that the relationship between rumination, which is the tendency to focus on negative aspects of oneself or negative interpretations of one's life, and the neural substrates of the reappraisal could manifest itself by either influencing activation of prefrontal regions and supporting cognitive reappraisal and heightening the activation of the amygdala, or with the changes in the activation in the medial prefrontal areas involved with self-referential processing and attention of one's emotions, overall creating a change in emotional response. So another thing, just to reiterate, this amygdala right here, they are trying to find out what part of the brain is really used with this cognitive reappraisal and the rumination. So that's just a part of it, you know. So a method they did, the main study is they used 24 female participants. They only used female so they could just cut out the gender bias. They were shown negative or neutral photographs, and the relationship between rumination and reappraisal was examined with 4 different conditions that went along with showing them the photographs. So they either asked the participant to cognitively increase their negative affective responses to either a neutral or a negative photo. That was 2 of the 4 different conditions. A third one would be the participants used reappraisal to decrease negative affect to a negative image. And then the 4th one was participants viewed negative and neutral photographs and responded naturally, so they weren't told what to do. They just kind of looked at them for the 4th one. The rumination was measured by these 4 different conditions and then looked at the end. So a result, 2 main results. They had cognitive reappraisal can create negative responses to neutral images using the amygdala. So rumination is associated with the use of the brain systems, mainly the amygdala. They found mostly the left side of the amygdala, but also a little bit on the right. Another one, the participants were seen to be more likely to amplify their negative response by tying these images to themselves and their goals rather than passively viewing the images. So, a conclusion that the study found was that participants had the explicit goal of decreasing negative effect and did so both experientially and neutrally, but also found that a different application of this study would show that in everyday life, just the real world, people would maybe be motivated to ruminate by a goal to understand themselves better, or either by a negative or positive self-referential processing that will make them feel worse if it was a negative self-referential processing, or positive would make them feel better. So the ad that I used, I saw this a few years ago, or 2 years ago, in the Super Bowl 50 commercial. It's the Snickers one. The commercial itself takes place on the set of a commercial where Marilyn Monroe is first played by the actor William Dafoe, who is displeased with the entire idea of the commercial. He's upset with it, but then a set member gives him a Snickers bar, so he'll change his attitude. He then switches into the actual Marilyn Monroe, who is much more jubilant and happy about the entire situation. The commercial's purpose is to show that you're not yourself when you're hungry, and that a Snickers bar will change your attitude from a bad one to a better one. So I couldn't use the sound for the video, but I put subtitles on, so it should pop up there. So you can see here's William Dafoe dressed up as Marilyn Monroe in the commercial, and he seems super annoyed with the whole thing, and he's just saying it's a disaster. Who would do this? Like, he's really upset with the situation. And the set member right there, he's like, hey, eat this Snickers. and he just chops it down, turns it into Marilyn Monroe, and the commercial goes great and swimmingly, and it works. So here, so an analysis of it was, it's similar to the article because the first initial Monroe is much like the initial participant in the study, and the set member is like that gives them the Snickers with the instruction, eat a Snickers, a little cranky. It's much like the instructions of reappraisal to the participant to use a picture as a positive basis, and the picture is like the Snickers bar, or the Snickers like the picture bar, vice versa. And Monroe switches her attitude just like the participants ruminating from the reappraisal. Switches the attitude from the Snickers bar, ruminating from the reappraisal. The ad uses application of the innate human nature. We all want to have a positive attitude. It's annoying to have a negative attitude, and you are trying to turn into a positive one. So there's an initial attitude, and then the stimulus, reappraisal or Snickers bar, encourages a positive response to change the attitude. So two different ways you could look at this would be, one, the commercial could be a set member, and the set member could hand Monroe Snickers and not say anything, just let her eat it, and she could change the attitude by herself. Or the scenario could be a set member gives her the instruction to be more positive while he answers the Snickers. That's just two ways you could have done it. So